It says we're live, so we must be live. Welcome to All Falcons on my channel at youtube.com/c/Scott Kennedy. I am Scott Kennedy. You can find me on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. And you can find Nick Kendell, my friend and co-host, at Nick Kendell, MHH. And speaking of which, let me hit this tweet that I had drafted up so we can see if we can invite some more folks to come in real quick. But Nick, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well. I think 2 weeks from today, the sun will set after 5 p.m. in Seattle, so I'm getting excited for that. I'm getting tired of the rain and the darkness, and it's only January 12th, but that's okay. So
That
I
sounds
got
like
the
a good
draft.
Seattle grunge song.
Yeah, gosh, it's only 2 weeks, so or a love song, something like that. But no, excited to be here. I got the draft to keep me warm and lighten my things up here for the next couple months as we hopefully propel ourselves to a good summer and springtime.
Yeah, days are getting longer. It's getting cold here. It's supposed to get like 2 to 3 inches of snow in Atlanta this weekend. So
You'll be shut down.
It's cold. Yeah, well, it's MLK weekend, so be shutting down anyway. But want to say good morning to some folks that are in the chat and ready to go. EJ, good morning. Let's talk some football. Yeah, we're gonna mock some draft today. We're gonna go through the top 10. We're going to alternate. Nick's got the odds. I've got the evens. I'm like, oh, sure. You get the number one pick. And he's like, well, it makes sense that you get the Falcons and I get the Broncos. I'm like, oh, yeah, that does make sense. So I'm reasonable, even if my emotional reaction was, why do you get to go first? Luke says, good morning, Nick and Scott. Luke, good morning. Clee says, no picture of the quarterback with the best season, Mac Jones. Shoot, Trey Lance may have had the best season. No, I'm just kidding.
That's my guy.
No, it's actually a little harder to change that than you think because it has to be so tight and narrow. And I made that before the draft when, Trey Lance wasn't on there either. When I thought, these would be the first three guys to go with Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Fields, and Fields slipped a little bit. So I still have hope, but we're talking about hits and misses. If Fields misses, that'll be one of my bigger misses because I wanted to take him second overall. If Trevor Lawrence misses, that'll be one of my biggest misses. I think he's the best quarterback prospect I'd seen since Andrew Luck. So that I can remember anyway. There may have been some others, but really good on there. Little Ran Man, good morning. Good morning, everyone. And yeah, we're going to play a little GM. So a little play on words too. So we're going to play some GM and Jeremy coming in and saying, good morning, boys. Well, good morning. Appreciate you being here. And talking little Falcons here. They finished 7-10. I think on October 3rd, I predicted they were going to finish 7-10. I also predicted it was going to be Georgia and Alabama. Didn't know who's going to win though. I didn't know that Georgia had it in them to beat Alabama to slay that giant. And after that fumble call, that strip sack, which personally I think was the right call, as fluky as it was, I thought it was the right call. It looked like a fumble, and his foot looked like it was in bounds. Even though he nonchalantly catches it one-handed and brings it in like, oh, yeah, let me grab the ball. I did think it was the right call. And at that point, I was like, I don't know if Georgia will – is this the one? Is this the one where they fold? Or do they stand up and fight like champions?
Yeah, I picked Georgia. You knew that coming in. I thought Georgia had a better defense on the whole. And that SEC game, if we've seen anything, it's kind of the – quarterbacks in general. I didn't think that Bryce Young was going to play God mode like he did in the SEC championship game. And without
he was
God
still
mode,
pretty good to interrupt. Sorry, he was still really good. He missed his 1 and 2 out there. A couple throws he made that should have been caught, and he was still really, really good. I didn't see anything in there that makes me think, oh no, I don't want that guy. No.
Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted at all. We're like talking about somebody like Patrick Mahomes having just kind of a ho-hum game, didn't go into God mode. The Chiefs can still win games, but Bryce Young was not on God mode in that game. And I thought with the Alabama's trenches, despite Evan Neal being a really good player, I thought this was a down year for Alabama on the offensive line, especially with pass protection. And obviously Georgia has a great front, but Bryce Young was under pressure all game long. So I thought it was a good game overall. Question for you coming out of this game, and I saw a little bit of discourse on Twitter about this, and I fully am in agreement with it. Will Anderson, should that have been his last game in the college? Because that dude could walk into the NFL next year.
It's the whole thing, the unholy collusion between the NCAA and the NFL is basically, it's restrictive of trade. It's un-American. It should be basically illegal. He should be. I wish they did it like baseball. I really did. It's just the problem is if I'm the NFL, I've got my minor league system built in with free PR. These guys are stars, are getting great training and all this type of stuff, and it doesn't cost me a dime. Why would I have a minor league system? In baseball, you're eligible. If you go to a 4-year school, you're eligible to be drafted after 3 years, but you don't have to go to a 4-year school. You can get drafted 5 times. It's up for me in the Major League Baseball to draft you and say, I want you to give up your next year of college and then come out. I don't have to declare. I don't have to say, maybe you want me. They put the risk on the billion-dollar business, which makes a lot more sense. So Will Anderson shouldn't have to say, I want to give up my college and come out, but he should automatically be eligible. And if someone, a billion-dollar business, how much are the Denver Broncos going to sell for? About $4 billion, one of 32 teams. So we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars worth of business, wants to say, Will Anderson, we want to make you our number 1 draft pick, and we're willing to give you $15 million to give up your last year of eligibility, then they should have that right. And so more importantly, so should he. So Will Anderson should be in the NFL next year. Probably could have been in the NFL this year.
Yeah, he was the best player on the field. What a joy to watch, number 31 in Alabama. Jalen Carter, I hope you got to see some of him too. I mean, he moves differently than those other defensive linemen for either of those team. But Will Anderson, that should be his last game. And I know the argument is, he'll be a year off. I mean, what's going to happen a year away from football? Question answered, folks. We just got that this year. Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, those guys did not miss a beat. Quinn Miners did not miss a beat for you Bronco fans out there. So I think Will Anderson should not play.
Again, when they got the chance to sit out, a lot of them did. And I've predicted this 10 years ago. I said some of these guys, the Leonard Fournettes of the world, especially the running backs.
Yeah, running backs especially.
The running backs were the wear and tear. So am I going to come back and give up 300 or 400 carries? That's 2 years of my career in the NFL.
Yeah.
To get the hell beat out of me as a 20-year-old. Or am I going to go work out, go join several of these training facilities? Chip Smith runs one here in Georgia. Athletes Performance is one. They're all over the place. And I'm going to go work out for a year, and I'm going to be fresh. I'm going to be strong.
Work on your pass reps.
I can still take classes, and I can take money to do it. So, again, on that note, there are a lot of good players to talk about. We're going to talk about a few of them. I think we'll have at least one of them go in this draft here that we're about to do. The Falcons finished 7-10. Pretty much right where we thought based on the first 6 games that we watched. Okay, they can beat the really bad teams. They're not going to beat a good team. They just don't have the talent. The Denver Broncos underachieved. They underachieved based on, and they have a new coach. They're getting a new coach. So they're picking in the exact same spot. So, you got some more wins. Yeah, but did you finish any higher? Did you? You finished 9th again. You finished 9th from bottom again. So you didn't improve, did you?
I mean, on the whole, a lot of the peripheral statistics and metrics say that the Broncos underperformed this year vastly based on the talent in one possession games and the like, where the Falcons are on the other end of the spectrum. I think I saw a clip that if all the teams with 1-score games flipped the outcome this season, and we know over a decade-long sample size that those 1-score games tend to be pretty volatile, the static noise on one side or the other. Teams with better coaches and quarterbacks tend to win them a little bit more, but no dip. But the Broncos this year, they would have been, I think, maybe even 12 wins if they would have flipped the 1-score games, and the Falcons would have had 2 wins. So talk about
Falcons would have been 2-15 if you flipped their one. They were 7-2 in one-score games, and while some of that is volatile, some of it is. I think the coaching staff did a better job. You had an upgrade in Dean Pease on the defensive side. The play calling was much better with Arthur Smith. And you've got a good quarterback. For the Matt Ryan haters out there, he's still better than average in the NFL. And if you don't believe it, watch the rest of the NFL because there's some god awful quarterback play out there. You put
the worst year of quarterback play in a decade.
You put 20 quarterbacks behind that offensive line, and you're taking them off in body bags. We saw Josh Rosen and Felipe Franks behind the line for a couple plays. I think there were 2 pick sixes and 2 throws. And a good kicker and a Pro Bowl kicker. So, that was the difference between 2-7 and 7-2 in 1-score games. But do you want to get started here? I want to talk a little bit with
the chat here. There's some discourse here with Young, Little Rainman saying Young looks soft physically. And then I think it's Tommy Simmer saying he's immobile he's talking about Matt Ryan
on that one.
Then Will Anderson, a beast. Yeah, Will Anderson should sit out for sure. I really do like Bryce Young. I do think that he will be my quarterback 1 entering this offseason, but CJ Stroud is right on his butt.
Yeah, I think so too. Like we talked about, it's like Will Anderson might go number 1 in this draft, but he probably will be at best a 3 next year. I would probably with the quarterbacks, I would go. The quarterbacks just get taken. If there's a good quarterback, they get taken higher. It's just the way it goes. And there's 2 pretty good quarterbacks. I think I tweeted out CJ Stroud would be the number 1 pick in this draft. Michigan fan was a little mad that I said that because Aidan Hutchinson is getting some talk for number 1. I'm like, listen, there is no real number 1 pick in this draft. And if you've got a bona fide quarterback prospect, he's going to go number 1 in this draft.
Yeah. Yep. That's just the reality of it. So I guess that's a good transition. Let's get into it here. I have the first overall pick. I am the Jacksonville Jaguars. Everybody get out their clown masks for the owner con here. We'll see what happens with the ownership situation. The Jags, though, they do have the most important piece of the puzzle in the quarterback. I'm still a believer of Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, if you can right now. I wish they had something that was like stocks for players that you could invest and trade over years, because right now, buy the Trevor Lawrence stock that you can right now. I don't think it's ever going to be lower. They're talking about bringing Bill O'Brien. As crazy as it sounds, Bill O'Brien's a step up from Urban Meyer and the show that we just saw there. So, and I don't know if you got a chance to watch the Colts versus Jags game. I was watching it because 2 of my best friends are Colts fans, and my God, what an embarrassing way to go down. But Trevor Lawrence was incredible in that game. He made high level throw after high level throw. I mean, he was
really good.
He is so talented.
He's just really good.
Yeah.
Marcus Welcome said the Atlanta Falcons need an elite pass rusher. I don't remember what the bit was, but it's like, how bad was the elite pass rush? Or, and then, off the side, you'd hear they were so bad that, 17 sacks on the season.
Yeah.
I think if you had that was last in the NFL. If the Falcons had a 60% increase, like 65% increase, I can't remember the exact numbers because the two next teams were Detroit and the Detroit and the Jags. And I think they both had sacks in the last week. A 60% increase to finish last. So if they went from 17 to like 20, it was 26 at the time. So they were 9 behind. 17 to 26, they'd still be in last. That was a 50% increase to still be the worst.
Yeah.
That's insane. That is absolutely insane. Can you imagine if it was like that in yardage? Like, oh yeah, the 31 team finished with 3,500 yards and you finished with 2,000. I mean,
woof.
To say that in sacks or points, yeah, everybody else averaged 27 points a game and you averaged 15. That is statistically absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
So to say that the Marcus, that the Atlanta Falcons need an elite pass rusher, everybody needs an elite pass rusher. The Falcons need a semblance of a pass rusher, any kind of a pass rusher. Stephen Means didn't have a tackle for loss, QB hit, or sack, obviously, since week 4. Are you kidding me? Week 4.
Terrible. Yeah.
It's unbelievable how bad they were rushing the passer. Unbelievable. And people want to get on the coaches for this? Yeah. No, man. Come on.
And I do want to talk to Marcus here. Thank you for joining us this morning. I agree with you on the whole. Atlanta needs an elite pass rusher. However, Atlanta is a bad team right now. And what's the worst thing they could do in this draft is to force a singular position or need with a top 8 pick. You got to let the board fall to you and just simply take the best player, because you could use theoretically almost every single one of these guys in the top 10, and you should be happy about it. So ideally, yeah, Kavon, Thibodeaux, Hutchinson, or maybe you love one of those other edges falls to you at 8 and you take them. Sure, but there's a lot of other options. We're going to get that into here. I think we're going to force Scott to not take an edge rusher there at 8, because I'm going to take Kavon Thibodeaux here.
Surprise me. I don't think I have him down. I've got lots of choices. So again, because the Falcons have a need everywhere except probably tight end, you can go best player available if you've got that fits a premium position need. So we will see. But I'm ready to get started.
Yeah. I'm on the clock with the Jags. I'm going to take Thibodeaux. I think Hutchinson is a guy that definitely could make it for number 1, but Thibodeaux to me is the bendier pass rusher. He's a little bit looser. I think he's 2 years younger, and I think he's more versatile. If you want to play him stand up, you want to play him handed in the dirt, I think he's got that ability. There has been some talk that Thibodeaux has had some issues with coaches sometimes on the in practices and whatnot. Things get a little bit heated, but I'm not going to buy too much into that right now. So I'm going to take the guy who I think has the highest ceiling as the pass rusher and the most versatile pass rusher in this class in Kavon Thibodeaux.
Yeah, I that's where I would have gone number one. I would have taken Thibodeaux number one. He was, again, some of the noise you hear coming out, and I'm a little biased by recency biased. And the last time I saw Hutchinson and against the best team that he was going to face, Georgia whipped him pretty good. They handled him pretty good. I'm very curious to see how the measurables come out on these guys.
Yeah.
Is Hutchinson a really, really good college player as Thibodeaux, or do they have that, freakazoid, I'm a number one overall pick type of athleticism that you need if you're going to go number one overall, or you're just going to be another guy, trade out of the position, move down. Now, after I just got done talking him down, looking over the Detroit Lions needs, what they have, who's on the board and best players, I would take Hutchinson. So at number 2, take Hutchinson. It makes sense. I would have gone Thibodeaux in this spot, whichever one that you didn't take. I was going to take the other one. I would have preferred Thibodeaux, even though it makes sense to say Michigan kid, Detroit Lions. It makes sense, but general managers aren't very sentimental like that. They may take a kid in the 7th, but you see them pass by the local kid all the time for the player that they like better. So I will take Hutchinson number 2. So number 1, Jacksonville Jaguars, Kavon Thibodeaux, and number 2, Detroit Lions, Aidan Hutchinson.
And are you writing this down?
I am.
You are. Okay, looked like you were. So I just wanted to make sure. All right. Well, good pick there. I think Charles Harris for the Lions. They reinvigorated his career this season. One of his best years. He's had a former Dolphin, former Mizzou Tiger edge rusher, and I think he's a free agent. So that's a team that needs some help on the defensive line to get after the quarterback. Aidan Hutchinson definitely looks like a guy who's going to bite some kneecaps.
He's not necessarily, and this is where you can get in trouble, he's not necessarily the player I want for them at that spot. But it's
draft good players.
See, this is how you get in trouble.
Yeah.
It's safe. It's a safer pick for them. And if it's a need, that's
the reality.
I don't feel great about it, honestly. But not yet. In a month I might. In a month I might.
Yep, I feel good about that pick there, and now I'm on the clock with the Houston Texans. They recently, I think 3 drafts ago, spent 2 early picks on the offensive line. I'm going back to the well here on the offensive line. Max Sharping from NIU hasn't worked out for them. The guy from Southern Alabama, whose name's escaping me right now, that they drafted in the first round, has struggled as well. You got Laramie Tunsil on one side. He is penalized some, but that's okay. I'm going for the athletes here, and I'm going to punt on quarterback in the top here because I think Davis Mills has shown me enough to give him another year in this quarterback class. Now, if there was a Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence in this class, I'd be taking the quarterback here because Davis Mills was a 3rd round pick, and he's shown you some, but not enough to bypass on a top 10 graded quarterback. So I'm going to go with the offensive line. Evan Neal, 6'5", 350, can play left tackle, can play right tackle. I think if you have to, you can put him at guard. He's not the most elite mover in space, but for his size, with his length, the size translates, no doubt about it. So I'm going to go Evan Neal here. Going to protect him, and going to see some Evan Neal versus Aidan Hutchinson matchups going forward for years to come.
Yeah, I honestly, if I had the number 1 pick, I might have taken Evan Neal number 1. It makes sense. Detroit is okay at tackle. They needed much more help on the offense, on the defensive line. They put their big pick into their tackle last year, and they were okay on the other side. So it made sense for Detroit to go this. Now, as number 4 overall, I'm doing this now.
Yeah, now it gets started.
Yeah. I'm excited because the one that I almost thought about taking at the number 2 spot, the New York Jets got a bounty for trading away one safety. And at number 4, I don't care if he's a safety, he's the best player in this draft. And if I'm the New York Jets, I could use the best player in the draft. I saw, looking back over their performances and across their entire defense, they need help everywhere. So I'm the New York Jets at number 4. I'm taking Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame, Marist High School, Atlanta, Georgia. And I am absolutely stoked about it. I'm thrilled that he's still available at 4, and I'm expecting that he would be, but you never know until it gets there. And if I'm the Jets, I've got a guy who can transform the backside, shoot, even the front side of the defense. I think of him as an Eric Berry type, who can, another Georgia kid, who can play anywhere and everywhere across the line, can blitz, play like an outside linebacker, play like you could match him up as a corner, you can match him up as a safety. I'm thrilled. And with the New York Jets, I'm taking Kyle Hamilton.
Well, I like the pick a lot. Did you consider at all a cornerback?
I did. Depending on who was there. So I do have another pick in the top 10 though.
Yep.
So because I have another pick in the top 10, instead of maybe reaching a little bit at corner in this spot, I went best damn player available.
Yep.
I took really Kyle Hamilton.
I really like it. Hamilton is a freak. He's the best. Okay. He's the second best safety I've ever evaluated, but he's going to be the highest rated safety. The best safety I ever watched was Derwin James at Florida State. He did suffer an injury that knocked him down a bit, but Hamilton has not had the serious injury. I think Derwin James had an ACL. So I'm not as concerned about Hamilton. He's not as much of a box chess piece, I would say, as Derwin James is. Derwin James is more physical and explosive in that way, but I like Kyle Hamilton more on the perimeter. I like him more deep. I like him more in the coverage aspects than Derwin James. So he's amazing. He's a monster. And so far, my top 4 players in this draft are off the board, as it should be. Obviously, things can change here, but those are the top 4, in my opinion, in this draft class. I'm now on the clock with the New York Giants. Regime change, kind of a shock here. Joe Judge fired yesterday. Bullying works online, I guess, folks, because the fans were kind of beside themselves because Joe Judge was turning into a clown show himself. Giants do have 2 first-round picks. There's a number of directions they can go. I really like a lot of the defensive pieces they have here, and obviously, whatever coaching staff they bring in, general manager they bring in, could change the direction of this pick, but I like a lot of the defensive pieces on this piece. I could maybe talk myself into a cornerback here. You have the likes of Adoree Jackson, James Bradbury have been solid investments there. Pretty good there. You could always use more depth. They have Xavier McKinney also in that secondary. I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball here. This is a team that has invested in the offensive line, but not to the point where it's been able to overcome Daniel Jones's greediness in the pocket and also his propensity to fumble the football. So they've made a number of investments on the offensive line. I think that while Andrew Thomas did not look great year one, he looked really good this year. The rest of the offensive line, though, totally up for grabs. No idea who's going to start. I'm going to take my next favorite offensive lineman here, Ikem Ekwonu. I'm not sure if he is going to be a guard or a tackle right now, but we have seen Isaiah Wynn, left tackle for the Patriots at 6'3" with 33.5 inch arms, killing it out there. We just saw Rashawn Slater, best rookie left tackle season since Ryan Clady. I mean, maybe Tyron Smith, that dating that far back, right? 33-inch arms on the cuff. Ikem Ekwonu is a monster. If Will Hernandez continues to suck for them, they can put him at right guard. If Nate Soldier, terrible contract, they can put him at right tackle. You have another pick coming up here as the Giants where you could go defense to add the playmaker there. But I think that, and I don't trust Charles Cross switching to right tackle off the bat, at least with the top 5 picks. So I'm going to go with Ikem Ekwonu. You're really solidifying yourself across the board and get a absolutely dominant run blocker.
And that works in New Jersey, playing over there in the old Meadowlands, whatever they're calling it these days. But with the, the weather out there, and you think of the Giants of old, you think, good running game, efficient passing game with Manning, Sims, etc., and wicked defenses.
Yeah.
They've gotten away from that, and we think we're going to be a West Coast team and throw the ball all over the place and turn the ball over, and they're sticking with Daniel Jones. It looks like another year, so they could use some help on the offensive line protecting him.
And would you pull up
that
EJ real
brings
quick?
Me to number 6 in the Carolina Panthers.
Would you pull up EJ real quick? I just want to address this real quick as far as the 725. Nope. Next one. Farther down.
Can you read it?
It says Ike is a mauler, probably will be a guard.
Go.
Thank you, EJ, very much for the comment. He might be a guard, but if he's going to get a chance at tackle first, because their tackle is just way more valuable position, harder to find. And I talk with him pretty often, Dane Brugler of The Athletic, just kind of bounce ideas off, talk a little bit of football, but he says that there's a number of teams in the league that actually have Ekwonu as their number 1 offensive lineman in this class over Evan Neal. So, we'll see how that plays out, but do not discount Ikem Ekwonu. He's going to go very high, and I think he's a good pick here, even if he ends up being a guard.
I considered, I thought Ikem might be there at number 6, and he may have been my pick for the Carolina Panthers. Now that he's gone,
they're pissed.
Now that he's gone, Carolina Panthers taking a kid from NC State makes sense. Not too far from Charlotte to Raleigh-Durham in that area. And now, sitting at number 6, this is the one I'm scratching my head on. You're number 6 and you need a quarterback, but they're all there. But do you still have one? If I feel like I need a quarterback out of this class, I want out of there. And I forgot to say there weren't going to be any trades in this. You had to stay in your place. So I wasn't going to hypothetical make a trade down, but this is where if I'm the Panthers, I want back. I want to move back some. I would like to come out of this with a quarterback, and I'd like to move down. You're not going to see the type of deals, I don't think, in this draft you did last time. Nobody's going to come up and give you 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. No. I don't even expect another first-round pick like the Bears did to move up in the Giants spot. So they got 2 first-round picks out of that. I don't expect that. But you can move down and pick up another player, unless the guy I would probably want here, and I think they could still go defensive back on a corner, is I'm going Stingley Jr. Derek Stingley Jr. corner for the Panthers. I'm pretty sure, and I'm hoping I'm not screwing this up. It happens when you're live. Stephon Gilmore had only signed a 1-year deal. He was their best cornerback on their team. And you can never have enough corners. And if you can come out of here with the best corner in their draft and somebody who's worthy of a top 5 pick, jump on it. You're sticking with Matt Rule for 1 more year. You've got Sam Darnold already under contract. You're stuck with his money for 1 more year regardless. If you're not sold on one of these quarterbacks, don't reach. Do not reach. I'd probably take Matt Corral in this spot over Kenny Pickett if I'm going quarterback. But if I want him, if I want either one of those guys or maybe somebody else, Sam Howell later in the draft, I want to go back. If I'm staying in the spot, I'm not taking a quarterback. And I like Derek Stingley a lot. I think he's worthy as a top 5 pick. I think he's the best corner in this draft. I think he really helps your defense. And I think you've got a need there. So my pick for the Carolina Panthers is Derek Stingley Jr.
I do think that, just talking to quarterback discourse here, I do think that somebody might trade up into this area for a quarterback just to get their guy. Don't ever, I'm not talking to you here, Scott, but the chat, don't ever overestimate the connection that a coach or a GM might have with an individual quarterback that could sell them on a guy. It's that personality factor. Once they meet somebody, like, oh yeah, he's definitely the dude, and they'll go trip over themselves to get him. Teams that I think could be aggressive in that mold to maybe move up for their quarterback 1 in this draft class. Washington football team, the Taylor Heineke experience is not great, and they're a team that's picking there at 11. It's not a far drop for any of these teams. So that one makes a lot of sense. Minnesota Vikings. There has been some rumblings that an interesting name for the Minnesota Vikings there for the head coach. To get this one, this has been put out there by a couple different people. Lane Kiffin with Matt Corral would make some sense if you're pairing those 2 guys together. Lane Kiffin would scare me, but again, that's just the talking heads right now.
I've given Lane Kiffin as much crap and nepotism and all that kind of stuff as anybody, but I'm also willing to give him credit. I think he actually has matured. I really do.
Yep.
I think he is and he should. You should get better with experience. But he was handed an NFL job at like 31 years old.
Yeah.
The phrase I used for him was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. NFL royalty coming down, and was just arrogant and took things for granted and did. I think he's much better now, and I want to give him credit for that. So I wouldn't quite roll my eyes to the extent. I basically think of him the way I thought of Joe Brady last year. This guy hasn't done anything. Except that, Lane Kiffin was more obnoxious and got there because of his dad. So you're a little envious, turning angry about that a little bit.
Yeah. He's been around the block, though. NFL experience, college program building experience, offensive mind. So that's a team that maybe could trade up for a quarterback in this situation. Do not sleep on the New Orleans Saints. They almost made the playoffs with Taysom Hill and God blessed Trevor Siemian. Unbelievable. If Sean Payton finds himself a single quarterback in this class, I mean, how much is the small hands going to matter playing in the dome in New Orleans for Kenny Pickett? That makes Kenny Pickett there makes a lot of sense to me. So that's a team to look to trade up for. And the last one here that sticks out to me is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big Ben, they made the playoffs, but Big Ben is probably out. Steelers are a team that have shown that they are not afraid to throw around draft capital to move up for a guy or trade for a guy. Minkah Fitzpatrick trading up to 10 overall for an off-ball linebacker in Devin Bush. So those are the 4 teams that stick out to me as ones that I think could be ones that trade up for their specific guy in this class. Right now, I'm not confident in any of them. Give me the last of the big 6 on the board, and I'll be happy because I'll made the smallest investment in them or paid the smallest price. But we'll see what happens. So long talk there. Any thoughts on the quarterback conversation they're trading up? And hopefully you get a 2023 first-round pick, but who knows how it looks. You're right. It's not going to be like
someone offers you one. If they offer you the same deal that the Bears offered you, you take it. That they offered last year. They're number 20 overall. This year's first round pick, which ended up being to the Giants 7th overall. So we're at the half-hour mark. I want to kind of circle back and say hello to some folks because we've been monologuing for a little bit that have come in a little bit, after the fact. Tommy, I'm not sure we said hello. Good morning, Tommy. Travis Weber saying, good morning, Scott and Nick, catching your show this morning for the first time. Well, we appreciate you being here for sure. Miguel says, hey, I know you guys. Well, we know you too, Miguel. Appreciate you being in here this morning. Jeremy, we said hello to Jeremy. Ethan across the pond, warming up in London for the second leg of the FA Cup semifinal, I think, between Chelsea, who's got a 2-0 lead. They play 2 games. They add up the scores. The winner goes ahead. So you never hear an international player complain about running up the scores because they play aggregate scores. So you add them together. So, yeah, run up the damn score. Yeah. That's an American thing, complaining about running up the scores. But good morning. Appreciate you being here. We said hello to Marcus. Good morning. Good morning. And I think that catches us up on some of the folks in the chat. Oh, and Big E coming in. Big E Bronco. And Dave coming in. Dave has joined us on YouTube. Dave has been our Falcons friend for the get-go. Been here since the very beginning. So that moves us to, we spent a while on the Carolina Panthers because I think it is one of the more intriguing picks of the draft. Do they reach for a quarterback here? Is their pickup for grabs? They need a quarterback. So if a quarterback's going to go in the 6th spot, it makes sense that it would be the Carolina Panthers. It wouldn't necessarily make sense for them to trade out unless they think they like guys a little better and they can fleece somebody. And one more time, coming in, says Chris Walker, good morning. Appreciate you being here and for the comment. Says the Falcons need a beast of a defensive end, not a tweener, but one that could put fear in imposing offenses. Right now, a meh of a defensive end would be a vast improvement, Chris. We were running through some of the numbers earlier, and I think 17 sacks, and I think the next closest is 27. You need an increase of about 60% just to climb out of the cellar. That's insane. But yeah, the Falcons do need a beast of a defensive end. Will he be there when the Falcons pick at 8? The New York Giants are on the clock at 7. That is your pick, Nick. Go ahead.
Who did you take for the Panthers?
Derek Stingley Jr.
Derek Stingley. Okay, and the comment there is, that's an interesting pick for me. I thought that the Panthers would maybe lean into Charles Cross because they do need a left tackle. And you have now 3 former top 10 picks at the cornerback position over the last 3 draft classes. In Henderson, who they traded for from Jacksonville. J.C. Horn, who got injured this year, was looking pretty good. The cornerback taken right before Surtain.
And that might be what I'm forgetting. So it might not make sense. So all these Carolina Panther fans saying, you moron. Yeah, again, I'm looking at what from this past season.
Yeah.
So, and it makes J.C. Horn coming back. But, I'm looking at who they had last year. AJ Boy played pretty well. Stephon Gilmore was by far their best, and I think he's a free agent. I don't think he's guaranteed to come back. So after AJ, you're in trouble, and you're counting on J.C. Horn to come back. Maybe he doesn't.
And Henderson.
And let me make sure that AJ. Let me sort again here. AJ is under contract, so he'll be back. But again, even forgetting about J.C. Horn, yes, Panthers fans, I apologize, because he didn't play this year. I still think all the reasons I said you can take Derek Stingley Jr. in that spot still work for me. And it could be Charles Cross. It could be. I've heard enough negative stuff about him that I didn't want to take him there over what I think is a surefire thing at corner.
Yeah, no, I feel you for sure. And that one, that just surprised me given the they have 2 former top 10 picks at the cornerback position in the last 2 draft classes to go for a third one. Kind of makes me laugh
It
a little
makes the
bit.
most
Yeah.
sense for them to trade back. It
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
does.
Yep. Okay, so now the New York Giants are on the clock. I was stalling a little bit because I'm in a predicament. I'm having a hard time with this pick. They took Ikem Ekwonu just recently, who was a guard / tackle. They're definitely investing in the offensive line. They could use an edge rusher or maybe a cornerback, but they have James Bradbury. They have Adoree Jackson on the board there. So it's tough. I'm kind of flirting with Tyler Linderbaum here, even though 2 first-round picks on the offensive line as rookies starting that line is really tough for Daniel Jones in an evaluation season. So I'm going to go to the other side of the ball. I'm going to go with cornerback, one of my favorites in this class, Andrew Booth. I think Andrew Booth is a freak athlete. I think he's going to be in the conversation with the likes of Derek Stingley. His feet and his size are insane. He's going to test like an absolute monster in the draft, in the combine as well. And I think he's going to make an argument for cornerback 1 in this class. They have Adoree Jackson, they have James Bradbury, but you need 3-4 cornerbacks in this league to keep up. Also, you're going to need those guys to try to keep up with Dallas. They're going to spread you out and just pick on the weakest guy. And after those top 2 cornerbacks for the Giants, you're talking about Keon Crossan. You're talking about Aaron Robinson. You're talking about Jaron Williams. Who? So I'm going to go with Andrew Booth here, another cornerback off the board, a really talented one.
Yeah, and I think that makes the decision pretty easy for the Atlanta Falcons, based on who I think are the top players right now. Because again, we'll go back up and we'll highlight Chris. The Falcons need a beast of a defensive end. The defensive end is they have needs everywhere. Don't get me wrong. I could say you need your quarterback of the future, wide receiver. Yes, Russell Gage, God bless him, played his ass off this year. As he got healthy, he started looking good. I still don't want him as a number 1, maybe even a number 2, but as a number 3 slot guy. Offensive line, yes, basically everything but right guard. You could upgrade. Running back, yes, you need a running back. Defensive line across the board, other than Grady Jarrett, who is on a 1-year deal. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Linebacker and corner number 1. So I need a corner number 2 also. But premium position, best player available, I'm going with George Karlaftis. Defensive end out of Purdue. The Falcons had 17 sacks last year. Again, George could come in and have an 11-sack rookie season, break a record, probably, at least get close to a record, lead the team in sacks, and that would still put them in last place in sacks. That's just asinine. The defensive backs get better if there's any kind of fear whatsoever coming from the edge. They need 2 edge guys. They need another defensive lineman in the middle. But you got to start somewhere. This is where I'm starting. Nick, you are an Iowa person. You watch a lot of Big Ten football. Tell me why the Falcons are going to be excited about George Karlaftis being available and taken with the number 8 pick.
I think he's going to be a very steady, solid player. A guy that somebody in the league that I spoke with was talking about Karlaftis, and he gave me a comp for him, a guy that you should be maybe familiar with because he was very good for the Saints for a number of years. Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson does not have the longest arms in the world, but my God, does his motor run hot. He can win inside, outside, and his speed to power is awesome. Karlaftis is I think he's only 20 years old right now, and he was born big. Karlaftis does have a lack of length, but that's kind of the reality. So does Hutchinson. I don't know why Karlaftis gets all this gruff about the lack of length, but we never talk about it with Hutchinson. If you do have length thresholds for your tackles, and Karlaftis comes in at 32.78 or 32 7/8, then maybe you have him off your board or slightly down farther. But I think that I haven't really seen it been too much of a problem with him. He can play half man. He's super strong at the point of attack. He's so good with his hands, very refined with his hands. I don't know if Karlaftis has the ceiling of a Thibodeaux kind of in this kind of thing, but his floor is going to be extremely high. And you're getting a guy who, gosh, I mean, just is after it on every single play and really puts the program, or I guess your organization, on his sleeve as well. You're going to like Karlaftis. He's maybe not going to be a all-pro player, but you're going to get somebody who's going to get after it, going to be available, and going to be a Pro Bowler, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if you're looking at this draft board, it was a little bit deeper last year in the top guys. Micah Parsons going all the way back to 11 or so.
I think
were guys I felt really good about being. I said, you're either going to get a really exciting prospect or your quarterback of the future if you're drafting in the top 10 and change last year.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel quite that way. Other players I considered at this spot was Sauce Gardner. Now that the other two corners are off the board, Andrew Booth, the Falcons could go offensive tackle. They need a right tackle. 3 years of 27, I believe. He's now 27 years old, of Caleb McGarry. I've seen enough. I don't want any more. He's not all that expensive. Let him be a third guy in a rotation. You got to upgrade the right tackle position in this spot. But with Ekwonu and obviously Neal off the board, I felt like Cross was a reach. So no. I haven't seen enough. The other corner spot opposite A.J. Terrell, if I can get two guys out there that can play like A.J. Terrell, it changes my entire front seven. Everybody on the front seven can play a little better. It helps everybody in safety too. Now I can man up. Now I can bring pressure a little more. It gives Dean Peace and the defense a lot more options. So another corner would help the defense immensely. If Kyle Hamilton falls, I'm taking him. He's the best player on the board. If I'm drafting, he ain't falling past New York Jets and 4 at safety. And then
I have some Karlaftis.
I don't like any of the quarterbacks necessarily. The Falcons could be really, really bad in 22. They could be. They're not playing with a ton of draft capital. They have to rebuild their entire roster, and they could be set up to be 1 or 2 in 2023 and get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. It's possible. So again, defensive end, premium position, best player available right now, fits both needs. Check. George Karlaftis.
Yeah, good pick. He would have been in consideration for me at 9. He made some people, I saw there was a comment here that said his ceiling is AJ Epinesa. George Karlaftis did make Bruce Feldman's freak list preseason this year. Karlaftis has a pretty good background. Karlaftis played in his water polo team for Greece, the under 16 water polo team at 13 years old. Came a 2-time.
That's the nastiest sport. I ask people all the time, Nick. I said, what is the nastiest, dirtiest, most dangerous physical sport you can possibly think of? And it's water polo. I mean, like, it's basically hockey, except they're trying to drown you instead of just knock you down on the ice. They're also trying to drown you. Ugh, good Lord. I don't mess with a water polo player. They like it. No. So that's good to know.
He's a track guy as well. 2-time Indiana State champion for shot put and played basketball. His body fat is 15% right now. He's a weight room warrior. Power cleans 380 pounds. Did a 505-pound front squat, a 10-foot 1-inch broad jump, 37-inch vertical. And his 40 this offseason was a 4.65. So he also does a lot of MMA work and a lot of film work too. I mean, they just rave about him at Purdue. So I don't think
Patrick Kearney was a lacrosse guy. I think he was coming out of Virginia, I believe, when he was a first-round pick, and was a really, really good player for the Atlanta Falcons. Again, if you haven't heard us say it before, we love dual sport athletes. Most of these guys that make it to the NFL played at least 2 other sports in high school. They're a well-rounded athlete. Is just a better athlete because everything they do from another sport translates to what they want to do. You mentioned MMA. You want to talk about the hand fighting, using your hands on the line and the grappling involved? Yes, please. You want to try, you talk about a motor. You want to try and wear down an MMA guy who's played water polo? Forget it. Fourth quarter, he's just getting warmed up. So now I'm really sure about this pick. So I love it. If George Karlaftis comes to Atlanta, the number 8 pick, Falcons fans should be excited. Let's move on to the Denver Broncos at number 9.
Number 9 overall, the Denver Broncos on the clock. This is the team that obviously needs a quarterback. You guys heard me earlier. I am staying the hell away from a quarterback in the top 20 of this year's draft class right now. We'll see if that changes with the Senior Bowl. But right now, I cannot. I think it'd be it's a waste of resources in a sense that I don't think that using 9 overall on a quarterback is the worst in the world. If they did that, the issue for me would be then if that quarterback does not come out right away and play great, that they're kicking 2023 and 2024 down the road in what look to be much better quarterback classes. So if they take a quarterback at 9 and they're like, listen, we're doing this because we need one, we want to make the investment, but we're right back in the thick of things in 2023, I could be into it, but I just don't think teams operate that way. There's way too much of a sunk cost fallacy. So I'm not going to go with
what? If you get something, Nick, if a quarterback comes in and plays okay, maybe he's part of a trade package in 2023.
Yes, teams don't operate that way really. People like to point at the Falcons, but that was a really
Cardinals.
The Cardinals. Yep. that was a really unique situation because Rosen was so bad. They were switching to a scheme where there was like one quarterback there's never been a guy like that specifically before fitting that perfect scheme. I mean, I would have liked for the Broncos to work that way. Let's say they draft Matt Corral, and Matt Corral's out there looking like, Johnny Manziel out there year one, and you're picking top 3, then there's no way in bleep that you should let that rookie quarterback from this past year keep you from evaluating the likes of Bryce Young / CJ Stroud. But I digress. We're sitting here at pick number 9 overall. Broncos have needs across the board. They could use offensive line. Charles Cross is definitely in play here. If they go to a wide zone scheme, as much as it kills me to say, if they're leaning into that Kyle Shanahan wide zone scheme, maybe a Tyler Linderbaum to toughen that room and get a surefire pick here at number 9 overall. I can't get behind it because I think that this center is a position that obviously you want it to be good, but I don't think it's really a difference maker on the field. I would have considered Andrew Booth here or George Karlaftis if they were there, but they're not. Sauce Gardner is in play. If the Broncos go to a very press man-heavy scheme, Sauce Gardner, I think there would be a very good case for him to make. I'm going to go with the guy who is probably made the biggest move up draft boards this season, more so than Kenny Pickett, more so than anybody else. I'm going to go with David Ojabo, edge rusher from University of Michigan. We talked about the athleticism of George Karlaftis, but concerns about length. David Ojabo is longer. David Ojabo is a better athlete. He has a ways to go in his run defense. He's a little bit older too, but he didn't start playing football until his senior or junior year of high school. He's going to test like an absolute freak of freaks. And his pass rush moves right now, his natural ability as a pass rusher is insane. When you get a chance to watch Ojabo this year, he did get to see a fair amount of one-on-one kind of pass block situations because of Hutchinson on the other side, but he still won those. He was able to get around, and the length is not only impressive with his ability to play across multiple gaps. He punches that football when he gets after the quarterback. He is not just a sack artist, he's a sack strip artist. So I'm going to go with Ojabo here, understanding that his year one is probably going to be more of a situational pass rusher kind of guy rather than a classic, come in right away, playing all the downs, all the snaps like you'd want from a top 10 pick. Probably not for Ojabo off the bat, but I think he's too athletic. There's too much upside here, and I also think he is scheme versatile with the size and frame that he has going forward. So I'm going to go with David Ojabo, 9 overall, University of Michigan.
And he was a consideration for the pick at number 8. Again, the needs for the Falcons and Broncos are very similar at 8 and 9. So if there's 2 guys like that available, and there probably should be, you're going to say, because, DeMarvin Leal is out there too. So a lot of this is going to come down in these fine margins are going to come down to the evaluation process and the pro days. And speaking of evaluation and pro days, there was a question I wanted to ask you at number 7. Okay. Because I had said, people have asked me, Scott, what do you think of Terry Fontenot in his first year? Well, one, I think the draft class is a mixed bag. I don't think it was very good overall. Richie Grant, kind of a slow starter at safety with the number 2 pick. Jalen Mayfield has been a disaster at number 3 so far, but they're young. These guys are drafted. He's 20 years old. So again, they're drafting for the future. This was a rebuild, even though they wouldn't call it one. I just wanted Spencer Brown in that spot. But I had also said I'm not going to judge him unless I knew what he was offered for that number 4 pick. I would actually seriously consider have taken the package that the Bears offered the Giants. Now, I went back and looked at that, and it's like, the back end of that draft is I would have had to move back down to 20, but this isn't hindsight speaking. Whether he ends up being a bust or not. At 20, if I had taken that pick, I would have taken Odafe Owe at number 20 as the defensive end. Mm-hmm. So, and then I would have ended up with the number 7 pick, which we took Andrew Booth, but George Karlaftis, David Ojabo. Let's just say Booth. So, would you have taken Odafe Owe and Andrew Booth for Kyle Pitts?
Probably. God, I don't know. Because 2 players are great, but like Kyle Pitts is so unique out there, and I think that I don't know. That's a really good question. Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely possible, and you'd rather have the 2, but one in the hand is better than 2 in the bush or whatever they say. And you have Pitts, and he looks like he was one of the youngest players in college football.
He was 20. He in the age of holdbacks and double holdbacks, when Calvin Ridley's going to turn 28 next year. Yeah. Caleb McGarry's finishing his rookie contract at 28 years old. he started the season at 20.
Yeah.
So he was actually a year ahead based on for Georgia timelines, which has like an August 31st deadline. He was like a September birthday, I think. And he was born and he grew up in Philly. So they may have had a November 1st or later deadline. So for down here, he was actually playing a year ahead. He started his first games as an Atlanta Falcon as a 20-year-old.
Yeah, I might still take Pitts. I know that's the two players, but I think Pitts is that kind of special player that he changes what you can do. And like not only that, it's because of the way he plays that big slot position. Teams are going to have to completely change what they do schematically, defensively, week to week when playing the Falcons going forward. So I have a hard time getting away from Pitts. And maybe that's me watching a lot of Falcons this year, but like he made the Falcons worth watching a lot of times.
And Dave comes in. I get the sense that Pitts will have trouble scoring TDs in the NFL. Again, why have the Falcons been so bad? And we've shown some video on here. Why have the Falcons been so bad in the red zone forever? And a big part of it is because their offensive line has never been a plus. You get down in the red zone. I showed a play. They put 3 guys on Pitts. They dropped 9 into coverage because basically the 2 defensive tackles. It was against the 49ers. It was the post 49ers game. The video right after that. The 2 defensive tackles basically just stood up and held their ground at the line of scrimmage. This is at the 7-yard line, and both defensive ends got into the backfield. So they got pressure with a 2-man rush. This is second down after they couldn't run. So Pitts is getting triple teamed. Yeah. The 49ers getting pressure with 2 guys off the edge, and they're dropping 9 into coverage. They're not scoring a lot of touchdowns, period, like that. Pitts will be better as he gets some more help. And the fact that that he is 21 years old, will start next season at 21 years old. Based on that package, no. It would have cost you a lot more to move up into the number 4 spot. I agree with you. I think I'd probably would have turned that down and would rather have Pitts. Again, you know what you got. You know what you got. And unless Oweh turns out to be the guy we think he could be. Again, when the second he put his helmet on, he became one of the most athletic players in the NFL. And I don't say that hyperbolic. He is a freaking freak of freaks. The NFL is full of freaks. I don't say this lightly. He is a freak of nature. 250 pounds, running sub 4.4s with the shuttle times that were going to match cornerbacks and a vertical jump through the roof. I mean, I'd love to see him put on a dunking contest just for the fun.
Yeah, I think he has the longest wingspan of any player in NFL history too, which is like he's wild. He made Kyle Trask look like a competent quarterback, which is he's a good college quarterback, but taken I think in the second round, and that's Kyle Pitts to me. Real quick, I sent you something in the private chat here, a David Ojabo highlight. If you would pull that up, just because I want to show the tools here, the athleticism, the body control, and the length that you can see. This is a rep. It's an all 22 rep. So the coach's film posted by Lance Zierlein, former NFL scout, with David Ojabo going up against Saylor, the left tackle senior from Georgia, who had a decent game this last week. But let's just watch.
Yeah, there were some bad ones of Aidan Hutchinson running around like this as well.
This is a good one though. This is one that shows the athleticism and the balance. Pretty insane movement, body skills here. I mean, that's an insane move. The body control here to get it to his opposite hip, then spin back around for a guy who didn't start playing football until his senior year of high school and didn't play snaps really for Michigan until this year. It's definitely a pick that there is some risk given how young he is in the limited snaps. But if there's any position where athletic traits translate a 1-for-1 in the league, it is the edge rusher position. The bigger, faster, stronger guys translate. It's the same with and crazy enough, you're talking about Odafe Oweh. Ojabo was a high school teammate of Odafe Oweh. Really just a weird small world kind of situation. So I'm going to go with Ojabo here and just add to the pass rush for the Broncos. You talk about the Falcons being terrible. Broncos were terrible at edge this season. And Ojabo at least gives you a massive athlete there that can help you on pass rush situations year one and should be pretty amazing.
A guy that has to be accounted for. A guy that has to be accounted for. And you've heard me talk about the athletic freaks before. That didn't have really good football instincts. 2 of the best ones I can remember, a little bit undersized for a traditional edge. Taylor Mays, safety linebacker at USC. Freak of nature.
Yeah.
Terrible football player.
Couldn't move sideways.
Terrible football player. Yeah. Boss Bailey, Champ's younger brother. Golly, I got that completely backwards. Let me start over. Boss Bailey was Champ Bailey's younger brother, was a better athlete than Champ. He was bigger and he was just as fast and explosive. He had nowhere near the instincts that Champ did. What did I say to do with those guys? Third down. Make them third down specialists. If you do it with running backs, why not do it with edge guys? I don't care if you're 220 pounds. Go get the quarterback. That's all you have to do. It's a speed type of edge. Put them on the edge, isolate them against a tackle, or make them double team and free somebody else up. That's it. You get a sack a game, you're making $20 million. That's it. So
is that Micah Parsons theme music?
Ojabo, if he ends up being that guy, Parsons is a football player though.
Yeah, but he had some processing issues. His first year at linebacker for Penn State at the off ball. What's making him this tier 1 player is the fact that he can reduce down to the line of scrimmage and be Von Miller, Khalil Mack-esque edge rushing presence on those third down plays. So it's the pass rush ability that makes him super valuable, in my opinion. Devin White's very good. Devin White's not getting after the quarterback like Micah Parsons is on the edge. So we're at the 10th overall pick now.
We're at the 10th overall, and I'm going to finish this out of here. And for me, this becomes the Jets became the easiest picks. Of my 5 picks, I thought the 2 Jets picks I had were the easiest ones, because right now at number 10, knowing that they would be available, because I don't necessarily want to reach, but I had a position in mind, and I knew there were players that are going to be there. I wanted the best corner available. Who was still going to be there? Was it going to be? Did someone get stupid? Did Nick get crazy and just pass on? Actually, it was me. I took Derek Stingley. Andrew Booth, would he have been there? But Sauce Gardner, I'm okay with Sauce Gardner. Is if he ends up grading as a top 10 guy, I have no problem going cornerback and shoring up my defensive backfield in one draft. I'm coming out of this as a New York Jets who really needed some help in the defensive backfield with Kyle Hamilton and Sauce Gardner. Yes, please. And then I become really excited. So again, you make that trade and you have a bad season, and then you end up with possibly an upgrade at safety and a frontline corner in the top 10. And what you can do with 2 guys like that in the defensive backfield changes what you can do on defense. And that would be my pick. I would love to get one of those 3 corners in the spot for the New York Jets.
Yep. So I'm going to list some guys that are left on the board that are worth considering here going forward. And then you can run through the list here just to say the teams, and we can get on out of here. So some guys still on the board, obviously all the quarterbacks still on the board. I would say that there is still some thought in the league that Malik Willis could be number 1 overall. So I'll list him as well. Very toolsy, great athlete, 6'2", 225, 230. I mean, he's a running back playing quarterback as far as his frame. So somebody's going to like that, especially with what we just saw Jalen Hurts do, making the playoffs this season. Somebody's going to say Malik Willis, I think he's got a better arm and can do what Jalen Hurts just did. So Malik Willis is still on the board. Kenny Pickett's still on the board. Matt Corral still on the board. Charles Cross still on the board, offensive tackle from Mississippi State. Kenyon Green could go pretty high. He's played 4 of the 5 offensive line spots for Texas A&M. I think he was a very high recruit as well. I didn't take him here in the top 10 because I think he's more of just a guard than Ikem Ekwonu, who has both, but he's worth listing. I said Charles Cross. Tyler Linderbaum still on the board here. Center. He hasn't declared yet. Would be shocking if he didn't declare, but we'll see. Jordan Davis still on the board. Nose tackle, nose guard from Georgia. Maybe he could work his way in the top 10. I think that 11 to 20 range is where he should come off the board, though, personally. DeMarvin Leal, he's going to have some character vetting to do. We'll see here, but he is 6'5", 290, long arms, very, very talented. Then we have neither linebacker came off the board. Nakobe Dean or Devin Lloyd. Those 2 guys are worth mentioning. And after that, I don't know. I mean, you got a bunch of cornerbacks that might work their way up here, but Roger McCreary, Trent McDuffie, maybe a Dax Hill could work his way up as well, a freak safety from Michigan. But I think we hit it pretty much all the top 10 that I would expect to go. Eventually, come draft time, there's going to be a quarterback. We're going to have to talk about who that quarterback landing spot is, but we'll see. And we got Ethan coming in here, making sure the show goes out with a bang. Good show, gents. Got to go. Yeah, so do we, Ethan.
You're the leadoff guy yesterday. You're the closer today. So as always, go Chelsea over in London. Bring home a win against the Spurs. Always seems it still seems strange to me seeing Antonio Conte over there, and I don't know how that's going to work. It's so much, the general management aspect of international football is so interesting. It's so much more intriguing because the players have so much more power and there's so much more movement. That it's very cool. And Antonio Conte, the manager of the Spurs, is renowned for being bitchy about who the players that are coming in. So I don't know how that's going to work with a cheapskate like Daniel Levy at Spurs, but that's something else. But enjoy the game today. Enjoy the match. Finally, Gage Madrid coming in here with a little Broncos Falcons question. Said, I would love to get some input on Dan Quinn from someone who knows the Falcons. Denver is in need of a culture change. Is Dan the guy for that? I don't think so. So, to answer your question directly, is he the guy for a culture change? Abso-frickin-lutely. Absolutely, he's a guy who can change a culture there. From dry, dab, sarcastic, petty, immature Vic Fangio to everybody wants to run through a wall for Dan Quinn. Super positive. Never throws a player into the bus. The players love him. Culture change? Yes, absolutely. Is he the guy that's going to lead you to the Super Bowl? That's a different question. He's a defensive guy, so he's got to nail the offensive coordinator. I was asked on a show the other day, what was his biggest mistake that was within his control? And I said that how he replaced Kyle Shanahan. Hiring of Steve Sarkisian was a mistake. Not firing him the next year was a bigger mistake. Cost him his job. He's loyal to a fault in that regards, and he should have gotten rid of Sarkisian. I was surprised he wasn't thrown out that year with Sarkisian, but he got another year. The players actually went to bat for him, saying, "Listen, this is on us." New offensive coordinator, but he didn't make a great hire the next go round either. But as far as culture change, yes, absolutely. Everything would be positive, sunny and roses to start the season next year. How it goes from there, that's a different question.
Yeah, totally. So let's read us on out of here with the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And take us home. Should we go? Let's just go 1 through 10 and say who we did.
I picked to finish off here. We mocked the top 10. You start with 1, and we'll alternate here.
Okay, I'm gonna have to remember who I took here off the top of my head.
I'll say it.
I got it. I can do it. Number 1, Kavon Thibodeaux, edge rusher, Oregon, to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Number 2, Detroit Lions. Aidan Hutchinson out of the University of Michigan. Doesn't have far to go to play for the Lions.
Number 3 overall, the Houston Texans take Evan Neal, offensive tackle, University of Alabama.
New York Jets are rubbing their hands together because the best player in this draft is still on the board, and the New York Jets take safety, Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame.
Number 5 overall, the New York Giants, with their first of 2 top 10 picks, taking Ikem Ekwonu, offensive lineman from North Carolina State.
The Carolina Panthers take the next best player available and try and shore up their defensive secondary and bring back their last year's, hopefully he gets healthy, J.C. Horn, number 1 pick, and pair him with Derek Stingley Jr. Now all of a sudden you got a no-fly zone coming out of Charlotte.
Yeah, a lot of fun there with Charlotte. A lot of really, really good defense. Not sure what they're going to do on offense.
The most interesting pick in the top 10, I firmly believe. Again, could they go quarterback there? They could. Do they want to? No. Yeah, take your lumps with Sam Darnold 1 more year and figure out the quarterback position next year when you got better options.
And I think there's a stat out there for the Panthers that they've had a different starting left tackle dating all the way back to like 2016. Every single year they've had a different left tackle.
I had Ikem Ekwonu in that spot until you took him at 5.
Yep. So Charles Cross may be in the crosshairs there. We'll see. The run blocking's a question for him for sure, but big athlete, smooth. I'm on the clock now with number 7 overall, the New York Giants again. I was a little bit bummed to see Stingley go off the board there, but I took the next best guy who I think is right in the conversation with Stingley, Andrew Booth Jr., cornerback from Clemson.
And number 8, the Atlanta Falcons try and address their anemic pass rush would be a compliment. Anemic means you actually are still alive. Their dead pass rush was 17 sacks in 2021, finishing more than 50% below the next worst team. And take George Karlaftis out of Purdue, defensive end.
Number 9 overall, the Denver Broncos are on the clock, a team that obviously needs a quarterback, but they need an edge rusher too, and they're going to take probably the best athlete at edge in this class in David Ojabo, edge rusher, University of Michigan.
Someone that highly considered, and I think the pre-draft evaluation process will have an impact on who the Falcons take at 8. If the Falcons don't take Karlaftis at 8 and take Ojabo instead, or Leal, the Broncos might take Karlaftis at 9. So that's going to be a very interesting pick right there. They have a lot of needs that are matched and players that are going to be graded fairly similarly. And number 10, man, I'm going to be a Jets fan if they pull this off and they take Kyle Hamilton with number 4 and then take the best corner available, maybe the best player still available, and Sauce Gardner or Booth if he's still there. But shore up that secondary for the next 10 years. You get the best player on the board and you get a number 1 corner. and you were desperately in need of some help in the defensive secondary, and all of a sudden it's a different ball game for the Jets. So Sauce Gardner, number 10 for the New York Jets.
I really like that pairing with Hall as their other big cornerback there. They could use some help. I think Marcus May is out the door there in the Jets. So it's they need that. Robert Salah needs that. It would be very fun to see them invest in the secondary. Like that's a pretty good secondary in this class. Good cornerback and safety crop. I'm really excited about this group. A lot of fun. Breaking news here also. The Rams just brought this player out of retirement for a playoff push. Eric Weddle signing with the Los Angeles Rams going forward here. So pretty interesting name there.
He's a
older
specialist?
I have no idea. Eric Weddle played for the Chargers for years and then the Ravens for a while. Very good safety from Utah, I believe. And they just signed him out of retirement for the playoff push here. So interesting. That's an old defense there with the Rams, but will be fun. Scott, I got to get out of here and walk the dog and then get down into work. But,
appreciate you being here. We'll do this again. We will be on Broncos for breakfast tomorrow on Mile High Huddle at 9:30 Eastern. You get out of here. I got one more question I'm going to answer before we go. Nick, appreciate your work on the show.
Yep. See ya. Have a good one.
And real quick, as we finish up here, Chris has a good comment here, and you can tell he's been either watching the show or people have, but he says, Pitts was worth it. Thomas Dimitroff, former general manager, poor salary cap management and poor decisions have hurt the Falcons. Yes, he made a few good moves, but even a blind squirrel can find a nut every so often. He was horrible at talent evaluation, was more obsessed with skill positions than the trenches. And Chris, for me, it wasn't just skill positions. It was offensive skill positions. And it started, y'all have heard me say this before. I'll say it again. If you're new to the show gets a little bit bigger. We get new viewers. It started with the Julio Jones trade right out of the gate in 2011. The Atlanta Falcons gave up 50 points to the Green Bay Packers, did not force the Packers to punt in a home playoff game. Aaron Rodgers tore them to pieces. 50 points. What was Dimitroff's reaction to that? What was his very next move? To trade 5 high draft picks to take a wide receiver. That was frustrating to me. That's an entire offensive line. We talked earlier about the offensive line play being bad. That's your defensive line. Fast forward a year or two, and the Falcons are with a good team. You know, they had the number 1 seed, number 2 seed on a home playoff game before Julio Jones came in. They were a good team. Bring in Julio Jones, and they're facing the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game, and Julio Jones goes off. About 183 yards, 2 touchdowns, just everything you could have possibly wanted when you drafted him. He was it. Lose the game because you can't kill the clock, you can't run the ball, and you can't stop anybody. Lose the 49ers. That played itself out for the next 10 years of Thomas Dimitroff's regime as he overinvested in offensive skill players, including the money he spent them. If Matt Ryan is gone next year and they split his dead cap number across 2 seasons, he counts $20 million the next 2 years. You're already paying Julio Jones $15.5 dead cap next year. So you're talking about $35 million, more than 10% of your cap that would be going to players who are playing for somebody else. Horrible salary cap management. Jake Matthews, top 5 offensive tackle. Deion Jones, and I'm talking money. Deion Jones, number 2 inside linebacker. Just horrible cap management. So hopefully Terry Fontenot coming from the Saints, who they do some cap math, some cap wizardry, will help change that. Until then, I'm looking forward to the next big moves. Will be the NFL draft and some free agency. The Falcons won't be a huge player in free agency because they just don't have the money. They talked about re-signing some of the guys that are free agents for them. Russell Gage, yeah, bring him back. Hopefully he shouldn't get a huge offer, but try and bring him back. Foye Oluokun, yep, bring him back if you can. Cordero Patterson, yes, bring him back if you can. Those should be 3 of the higher priorities. And find a way to extend Grady Jarrett. Those are the things that we're looking for. Until then, we'll be looking at draft and free agency for the month of January, and I'll be at the Senior Bowl next at the end of this month, and we'll be doing some shows live from down in Mobile. So until next week, I'll see some of you on Mile High Huddle tonight, and Mile High Huddle for Broncos for breakfast tomorrow morning. And for the Falcons fans that were here, we certainly appreciate you being here. Kevin coming in late, saying rise up. Kevin, welcome and good morning. Appreciate you being here. If you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter at Scout Kennedy or come to the YouTube page. That's where I tend to get the follow-up questions. I get the alerts a little bit better on the YouTube page, which is just YouTube youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Let me drop a link in here real quick, and then we'll get out of here. This was the link to today's show. So if you're on Facebook, and I just put it in YouTube because I'm a moron. So let me drop it in YouTube, into Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, the YouTube link is in there. Hop in and leave some comments on YouTube. That's where I will get to the after effect. And Clee's going to close us out here. Says, keep up the good work, Scott. We'll appreciate you being here. If you're not here, there's no reason for me to be here. So I'm here because of you, and you guys make this show happen. So until next time, appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next week.